folks. So, Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law. I was about to sit down and binge watch The Defenders, which was just released on Netflix, but I made a video earlier today, which I had just about finished editing it. I was going to upload it, and then I decided, before binge watching The Defenders, I would sit down and basically just check the forums, see what was happening in World of Tanks, because not really playing, haven't played in a few days, but I came across this thread saying, today we'll discuss tier 10 light tanks. So no sooner had I finished making a video, as I say, Murphy's Law, about light tanks and the light tank changes as I found them coming back to the game, that changes were announced to tier 10s. So this is today we'll discuss tier 10 light tanks. So this is some changes coming up in 9.20. It'll probably be a micro patch. It's not enough for a patch by itself, but essentially Wargaming felt after 3 months that tier 10 light tanks weren't as effective as they should be, which is something that people have been saying ever since the light tank changes were originally announced for 9.18, that the step up from tier 9 to tier 10 wasn't a big enough step, that really tier 10 light tanks were underpowered. And 3 months later, which I suppose is quite good for Wargaming, they've announced that they're going to be buffing a lot of the tier 10 light tanks. So the first thing they're going to be doing is the Sheridan. They're going to be increasing its DPM, but they're not going to be increasing its rate of fire. They're increasing the 105mm damage from 360 to 390. So basically, even though it's only 105, it's going to be doing the same damage as maybe a 122mm gun. So it's giving heavy tank damage from 105mm. So it's going to buff its DPM by increasing its alpha damage, and they're increasing the amount of ammo it can carry from 37 to 42, which increases the amount of potential damage the Sheridan can do. So again, I'm grinding my way towards the Sheridan at the moment, and these changes should be implemented by the time I eventually get there, so that's pleasant, that's nice. They're also doing the same thing to the LT100 LT, or T100 LT at tier 10 for the Russians, but they're taking a slightly different approach. Instead of buffing the alpha damage like they did in the Sheridan, they're increasing the DPM by basically buffing the reload time. So they're decreasing the reload from 8.4 seconds, which was horrendous. That's like heavy tank or medium tank reload, down to 7.8. So they're shaving off a whole 0.8 of a second reload time. So they're increasing its DPM by decreasing the reload time, and they're also increasing the amount of ammo it can carry from 38 to 43. So again, increasing the DPM and increasing the potential damage that the T100 LT can do, and that's another tank I'm currently grinding towards. Next, we've got the WZ1321, which is the Chinese tier 10. They're not doing anything to that. They felt the DPM was good enough, so they're just increasing the amount of ammo it can carry from 36 to 40, giving it more potential damage, so it might be able to carry and not run out of ammo as much in tier 10 games. So that's nice. The other changes they're making are to the AMX 1390 or 13105, a tank I'm really looking forward to getting into. So they're increasing the shell damage from 360 to 390. Once again, same as they've done on the Sheridan, they're increasing it up to 390. Increasing the alpha means it increases the DPM, and they're also increasing the amount of ammo it can carry from 30 to 33 shells, so you get an extra clip in this particular tank. So once again, positive changes. They're increasing its DPM and its potential, its DPM and its potential damage. The Rheinmetall Panzerwagen were probably one of the most disappointing tier 10 light tanks, if going by what others are saying. They're making a lot of changes to this. So according to them, it fits its tank's characteristics to better fit the role of a sniper tank. So it seems as if the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen was never supposed to be a out-and-out scout. Wargaming themselves saw it more as a sniper, so it would play a lot more like the Leopard or the Leopard PTA, I suppose. That's the way they meant it to be played, and not as an out-and-out scout. So they've increased the stabilization and aiming. They've also decreased the time before a shot, so it decreased what's it actually saying here? Decreased dispersion during suspension, traverse, and movement by 22%. So basically, they've improved its shooting on the move by a huge amount. They've decreased the dispersion on the turret traverse by 20%, so they've basically improved it when moving the turret, improved the aim time or shooting while moving the turret, as well as moving the hull of the tank. They've decreased the reload time from 10 seconds to 9 seconds, so it's got a 9-second reload, or will have a 9-second reload, so that's going to increase its DPM as well as the gun handling. The aim time is decreased to 1.6 from 1.9, so again, this is definitely making it much more of a sniper. They've increased the shell damage from 360 down to 320. I don't know why. So essentially, they're nerfing the damage. So it's a sniper as opposed to an out-and-out scout. They've improved the gun handling, but they've decreased the alpha damage, so that they're removing they're removing a lot of DPM. I don't know. I haven't gotten to the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen yet, so, I mean, is it a DPM machine? I have no idea, but they're decreasing its DPM significantly, taking like 40 hit points off per shot, but they are increasing the amount of shots you can have up from 30 to 35, so they're increasing the potential damage, but they're also decreasing the potential damage by giving it 5 more shells, but removing alpha. So, yeah, I don't know. Until I've actually played it, I won't know. So that probably evens out. Less alpha damage, but you carry more ammunition. It evens out as regards potential damage, but it definitely decreases its DPM, even though the gun handling is better. So this seems more like, as Wargaming envisioned it, a sniper, which I never realized. I would have realized when I started playing it, but haven't started playing it yet. So, yeah, okay. So Tier 10 light tank changes. But they're not done there, because they're also making changes to American light tanks, and they've decided to divide American light tanks into 2 branches, which they kind of are already, but it needs a little bit more work, and Wargaming have recognized that. So they're dividing them into 2 branches, autoloader and non-autoloader. Okay, that's fine. So at the moment, you've got to go through the T71 to, you've got 2 branches up to the T71. And then you split into 2 branches again. So, there was definitely room for another tank in here. Absolutely room for another tank in here. So what they've done, and this is annoying me immensely, is they've added a new tank in here. You go from the M7 to the T21, which are single shot, which takes you to the T71 new tank DA, except it's not new. This is the autoloader, and it's the tank we have in game already. So they're just changing the T71 to the T71 DA, and that's going to lead on to the other autoloaders, the T69, T54E1, and the T57 Heavy. Okay, that makes sense. So what's the new tank? Well, the new tank, it's not a new tank at all. They're basically just reskinning the T71 and calling it the CMCD, and they're giving it a single shot gun. So you go from the Chaffee to the T37 to another T71 with a single shot gun, which takes you to Bulldog, T49, and Sheridan. So yeah, I'm not impressed, Wargaming. I'm not impressed at all. You're just giving us the same bloody tank with a different gun. And that's very lazy. It really is incredibly lazy, especially when you consider that I've been waiting forever. I have been waiting forever. In fact, do I have... Let me bring this up here. Yeah, I do have. I keep Notepad. Sometimes I come up with video ideas and I come up with Notepad ideas. I don't want to show you all my ideas for videos, but one of the series of videos I started and I need to get back to was I come across tanks that aren't in game. Sometimes when I'm researching for tanks and I'm going to be talking about the history of a tank, I'll come across tanks that aren't in game or that I may never have heard of, and I'll just very quickly pop open this particular Notepad. I've got about 10 of them on my desktop, but and I'll drop the name in here. So when I was talking about the Centurion 7.1 on the 7.1 Ace Tanker, I discovered that the Centurion Mark IV came with a derp gun. That's what made the Centurion Mark IV. It was a derp gun. So that's not in game, and I thought that would be an amazing tank to put in game. So I open the Notepad for tanks that I come across that aren't in game, and I dropped the name in here. But you can see there's a lot of other tanks that could easily I've come across while researching, that could easily be added into the game. I don't want to really talk about any of these because I will eventually get around to making these videos. But this is a file I've had open a long time, and you'll know I have it open a long time because as you get down here, you'll see tanks like the Sheridan, the M551, M551 Sheridan light tank. This is a tank that maybe I'll just delete it now. This is before the light tank changes. This file has been open a long time. So I said the Sheridan would make a wonderful light tank, and it's been added to the game since. So we'll get rid of that. And look at this. This is how old it is. The Australian Cruiser Mark IV is down here, and Wargaming added it to the game a long time ago. This file is ancient. So yeah, this one goes as well. So the other tank I had down here, the one that when they announced a new tank and I got all excited for a moment, and then got very disappointed, was the T92 light tank. T92 light tank. What the heck's a T92 light tank? Well, it's yeah, I'll show you. It's this tank, and this tank looks awesome. It's got almost no turret. What you'll notice from this tank is it, to keep its low profile, it's got almost no turret. What it has is two large cupolas either side of the gun mount, and that's its turret. The turret is incredibly low. Just two large cupolas and the gun mount. That's its entire turret. But the T92 light tank, it exists. It's currently in the US Ordnance Museum. This is a tank that was developed in the 1950s. Now, the reason I'm annoyed that Wargaming are adding just another T71 into the game to fill in that empty slot in the single shot area or light tank tech tree is because this tank exists, and it's been on my notepad. It's a tank I've been meaning to talk about for a long time. You see, the T71 and the T92, this tank here, were both developed at the same time. The Bulldog, the M41 Walker Bulldog, was developed as a replacement for the Chaffee. But the problem with the Walker Bulldog is, even though it was a light tank, it came in at roughly about 25 tons, which was far too heavy for a light tank. 25 tons is like medium tank weight. So the Bulldog, one of the requirements for a light tank was that they could be airdropped, and the Bulldog was just far too heavy to be airdropped. But the Bulldog also had problems regarding its engine. The engine was far too loud, and if you've got a reconnaissance tank or a light tank that was supposed to be used for scouting, and the engine was too loud, you could hear it coming from miles away. Not only that, but it was a gas guzzler. It wasn't very efficient regarding fuel usage, so it limited its actual range of operation because it just got through fuel too quickly. And finally, the sighting system was a new experimental sighting system on the Bulldog, and it just wouldn't work. It kept on malfunctioning. It was broken. So the Bulldog basically had problems hitting its target. It was too loud. It just drank too much oil or gas or petrol or whatever you want to call it. And finally, it was just too heavy to perform the role it was originally supposed to. So in the 1950s, the Americans were already looking at alternatives to the Bulldog because the Bulldog wasn't working out. I mean, they eventually fixed those problems. The Bulldog became, the main production tank for light tank for the US, but it was just too heavy, and they looked for alternatives. And now one of those alternatives was the T71. And the T71 was a design concept based on the AMX 13 with an oscillating turret. But the T71 never made it to prototype. Only one wooden mock-up. It exists in plans, and only one wooden mock-up was ever built, but it was a prototype tank. The other alternative they were looking into to replace the Bulldog was this tank, the T92. And the T92 did make it past plans, it did make it to prototype, it did pass its trials, and it's not in-game. This is a light tank that was designed to basically replace the Bulldog, and it weighed between 5 and 8 tons less than the Bulldog did, so it could be airdropped. It was more efficient, it wasn't as loud, but it was never accepted into service. Now, it came with a 76mm gun, which, and a very low profile turret, again, according to Wikipedia, but basically, it was interesting. It kind of used a semi-auto-loader system. It wasn't an auto-loader, but it basically was a bit like the IS-3A. It had an auto-loading system, even though it was single-shot, and it kept its engine in front, and it passed its trials, like I say. But the reason it was never adopted was around the same time as the T-71, the T-92 were being developed, the Bulldog started working out its problems, and the Russians had basically designed a new light tank called the PT-76 that was basically could be submersible, or it wasn't submersible, but it basically could be travel across water. So the Americans went back to the drawing board, and a lot of other tanks like the T-49 at tier 9 for the Americans, that was in development as well, a little bit later than these two tanks, T-71 and T-92, but basically they went back to the drawing board and they ended up coming up with their own submersible tank that was the Sheridan. So this tank exists, it exists in game. I mean, look at it, it's beautiful, it really is beautiful. And this would be a perfect tank to lead on to the Bulldog at tier 8. I mean, if you look at the tech tree that Wargaming are proposing, you know, you've got the T-37. You could do it two ways. You could either move the T-92 prototype in here, that was going to be a competitor for the Bulldog, and leave the Bulldog at tier 8, or you could move the Bulldog back down to tier 7 where it was originally and put the T-92 in here, leading on to the T-49, and that would be more maybe historically accurate as regards timeline, but we don't get that. We don't get this beautiful T-92. It's not in game, and I don't understand why. As I say, here it is. It's on display in the Royal, or in the U.S. Ordnance Museum. So it exists. It actually does exist, and this is what it shocks me, because this is not a picture of the T-92 as it exists in real life. This is a picture of the T-92 as it exists in Armored Warfare. So Armored Warfare got the T-92. It's a tank that already exists in a rival tank game. You know, and this is War Thunder, or this is Armored Warfare, and here's the T-92 in Armored Warfare. So yeah, why Wargaming decided to just give us a copy of the T-71 with a single shot gun and put it in at tier 7 instead of introducing a tank that actually existed and still exists and would be a perfect fit for that slot. That's annoying me. That is annoying me a lot. So yeah, light tank changes. I think the tier 10 ones are positive, but I just don't understand this tier 8 or the tier 7. Why do we need another T-71, of which only one ever existed, and it was a wooden mock-up? You know, the T-92 exists. It exists, Wargaming. It's there. It's been on my talk about list for tanks for probably over a year, or maybe 2 years. It's been a long time since I wanted to talk about the T-92. But yeah, maybe Wargaming, if anyone from Wargaming is watching this, please consider, maybe there isn't time to develop the T-92. Maybe you could just put the T-71 DA or CMDC in as a placeholder. Maybe that could be a placeholder, and then eventually move the T-92 in there, and anyone who has a T-71 CMDC will get a T-92. You know, it's a perfect tank, Wargaming. What are you doing? Just don't give us another copy of a tank that didn't exist, you know, or existed only as a wooden mock-up. Give us a real tank. I mean, I don't understand. Maybe Wargaming aren't aware the T-92 exists, which I find surprising. You know, I'd find that very surprising. Or maybe they're just holding it for maybe as a potential tier 7 or tier 8 premium light tank for the Americans. Maybe they've got it down as a future premium tank, and that's why they're not giving it to us as a regular tank in game. But if anyone, as I say, from Wargaming is watching this, please consider, you know, I know it might be a little bit too late now, but please consider putting the T-92 in here at tier 7, or moving the Bulldog back down to tier 7 where it was originally, and moving the T-92 to tier 8. I mean, either would work, you know, and it would give us more new content and a new tank for me to talk about when I'm covering the tank on the channel. It's just, the T-92 is a beautiful looking tank, and it exists, it existed, it exists, and it's not in game, and it's in Armored Warfare, but it's not in World of Tanks, and I don't understand why. You know, please Wargaming, T-92, I'd really love to see that tank in game. So yeah, so I can't leave it there. I can't just put out a video with a couple of web pages and a couple of images. You know, and as I say, I made a video earlier today while I was planning to sit down and binge watch The Defenders, and I was just going to upload that video and then enjoy a night with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Luke Cage, but then as I say, I came across that article about light tank changes, and I said I'd have to go back to the drawing board, otherwise some of you guys might comment that the changes are on the way and I didn't know about them. So during the video I made earlier, I also mentioned the fact that I'm loving the 1390. I really am loving the 1390. I think it's absolutely awesome at tier 9. And I mentioned the fact it's a damage dealer and a scout. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm scouting and I'm going to go into damage dealing mode later on in this game. But you know, this game is exactly what I'm talking about. This is Lakeville. I'm in my 1390 again, and you know, we're going to be scouting and damage dealing, which is what I think this tank is best at. You know, you can play it one way or the other, but sometimes you get into these games where you can do both. You can scout and damage deal. So that's what this is. As I say, I wasn't planning to ever bring this video to you, but I might as well, seeing as we're still on the subject of light tanks. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. So, need 4K spot for mission LT15. Well, I'm sorry, 1375. I'm sorry, 1375, because these spots are mine. You can see my damage, assistance damage is up to 1,218 now. He's saying he has 490 view. Well, my view range is actually closer to about 500. But yeah, let's not discuss that. Yeah, so kill pilot and I move up. Yeah, that's fine. I go for a couple of blind shots here because no tanks are showing up in C4. I reckon they've retreated. But no look. Yeah, he's definitely behind the rock. No look. So I reckon it was fairly safe to fire there. As I say, mainly because the tanks that were up on this corner have moved back. So we're, you know, 1375 is trying to get his mission done, but I'm in a position here where it's me who's actually doing the spotting. As you can see, got all the assistance damage on the T92 there. So, yeah, he's retreating, he's falling back. So, yeah, just being patient. You know, I'm top tier, and this is what I'm talking about. This is what I just had no idea how big an impact light tanks were going to have on the game when they announced the light tank changes. Because, as I say, I just thought, okay, so instead of seeing tanks 3 tiers higher, they're only going to see tanks 2 tiers higher, and then, you know, that's what the standard matchmaking is. And, as I say, I had no idea that basically how powerful light tanks could be when they're top tier. And I'm top tier in this game, and, you know, I'm scouting, I'm helping my team out, and that gets me spotted. Yeah, okay, just too much of his cupola was showing. So I've been spotted. That position there is no longer effective. We've lost the valley, but it's an encounter game, so losing valley is no big deal. So I'm on a reload, and now, because I've been spotted, 1375 is moving up. I'm actually going to go into damage dealing mode now. So just waiting for my reload. Pilot's dead, which means I can probably advance without getting spotted. And I'm wondering which is the best route into town, and okay, 15100 is there, 5100's there, so you know what, with the pilot dead on the coast road, what I'll do is I'll take the wide route, and you know, we're just going to flank. And as a flanker, as a damage dealer, this is what I really enjoy. Oh, lots of tanks spotted, so we're going to move up and we're going to do some ambushing. I got spotted, but these tanks in town are completely oblivious. Lots of heavy tanks. They've got a Tiger P and a T29 camping the red line, so well played, guys. Really good play for you guys. Rather than sitting in town and playing like a heavy tank, you decide to sit on the red line, so we can one-clip the T25 too, so, you know, that's an easy... What was that? I don't know how much damage we did to the T25-2 there, but we take him out. So this 20-second reload is just awesome. So we're just waiting. The heavy tanks, T30, T34 in town, so we can flank these guys. So their attention are on other people. So 1, 2, he's dead. We take out the T32, our T34, get one shot, empty our clip into the T30, reverse back into cover. And as I say, there's no pressure here. I can just sit here. They're light tanks and they're heavies. The tier 7 heavies are sitting at the back of the map. But this is a tier 9 light tank with an autoloader, and I'm in a game against tier 7 heavies. I mean, this is something I had never ever thought about Oh, bloody gun elevation. Gun elevation is so bad. So yeah, I end up missing my first shot in the T30. So, he dies as my third shot's in the air. Okay, yeah, gun elevation and gun depression on the 1390, not good. Probably the only thing I'm not a fan of on the tank at the moment. So we advance, waiting for our reload. But yeah, I'm just loving the 1390 at the moment. I think of all the Tier 9 light tanks I'm grinding through at the moment, this is my favorite. I don't know, I used to love the RU-251, but I'm struggling, really struggling to have good games on the 251 now. I don't know what it is. I need to actually sit down and figure out what changes were made to the 251 between when I was playing it the first time round and playing it now, because I don't know, I loved it when I first played through it, and now I'm just struggling in the 251. And then the 132, seems exactly the same. It feels as good as it did in the past. The T49 is as derpy and horrible as you know. You can have awesome games, or you can have terrible games. So we go one direction while I'm still spotted. I've dropped off radar now, and we'll go for another direction. Go in the other direction. So yeah, just damage dealing and spotting, and that's essentially what I'm doing here. So we're on 3 kills. We're up to 3k damage there or thereabouts, and the accuracy, this is not really a sniper. We go for the track shot, trying to go for a track shot, track him in place to get more assistance damage, but failing. Oh, finally we track him, but we've only put 1 shot in and a bounce. So yeah, this is a T29 and we're struggling. He was slightly angled, but we only managed to pen 1, we only managed to track 1 and 2 bounce. So we're on the move, and the T29 is repaired, so no more assistance damage for me, but relocating during a auto-loader reload, and by the time we get close, we should have reloaded, and this tank is much better at shooting on the move, even though we bounced that one on his rear. Don't know how we bounced that one on his rear. And that meant that bounce for 0 damage on his rear meant we don't get enough, we don't get to kill him. But I've basically run out of standard ammunition now. I've only got 1 round of standard ammunition. I've had to switch to premium. And the premium ammunition, didn't mention it in the previous video, but 248, so the penetration doesn't increase that much. You only go from 205 to 248, so yeah, it's good enough. But mobility wise, I'm enjoying the tank. Gun handling wise, I'm enjoying the tank. Damage dealing and spotting, there we go. Aim as long as we risk and take him out. So there's kill number 4. So we're on 4k damage, 3k assistance damage. Gonna move up, see if we can farm any more damage before the game is over. VK was on a lot of health, but he's just lost a huge amount of it to the Waffenträger Panzer IV. So we get 1 shot into the Tiger P, and he gets taken out, and then the VK goes down. So yeah, 1390, as I say, I'm loving it. Damage dealing and scouting, can do everything. So, a quick bonus video that I wasn't planning to bring you, but because I'm still talking about light tanks, I ended up just showing it to you. So, it was another ace, and as I say, I'm loving the 1390 since getting back into it. We picked up high caliber, but that was the light tank as top tier, and light tanks at top tier are just awesome. I had no idea they were going to be so good. It just never occurred to me that light tanks would be top tier. I expected them, when the light tank changes were announced, to be bottom tier, but only face tanks 2 tiers higher. So as mid-tier and top-tier light tanks are just, I can see why they needed nerfing. So we ended up doing 4.2k damage. 1363 was enough to pick up another ace in the tank. 34 shots fired. We only hit 27 and pen 20. So a little bit disappointed with some of the bounces. A little bit disappointed with some of the shots at distance that didn't hit our pen. But we did take quite a few blind shots at a T21 prototype, our pilot in the middle. Our whatever the hell that tank is called, I have no idea. So we spotted 6, so did my scouting, spotted 6 and did 3k assistance damage. So as I say, this is a tank that I love scouting in and I love damage dealing in. We damaged 9, destroyed 4 and earned 36,000 credits with a tier 9 and once again premium consumable. First game of the day left me on 4,090 XP overall with a premium account. So anyway, quick bonus video for you guys today. Sorry, it's like 2 1390 games back to back, but I just had an excuse to bring them to you. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.